Good morning, Vietnam. You're Robin Williams.
Oh, that's
We're.
fucking great.
I'm gonna watch that movie. Have you seen that movie, Good Morning Vietnam?
Absolutely, that's a great movie. I
Good.
love that
I
movie.
might actually. I might. I might watch that. That might be the theme today. Good Morning Vietnam.
Good
It's a
morning,
war
Vietnam.
out there, and there's fighting one battle at a time that we can get into. But I guess before we get started, we should. Why don't you name all our sponsors, Adam? Take everybody through the group.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna start with Jay Williams because as a fan of stand-up comedy, I was particularly excited when I saw his post with Burt Kreischer the other day. So Jay Williams and Freebird, as always, what up, Jay and team, and congrats on your continued fucking crazy ass growth. That's wild. Um, So A, that, B, Sam and Alicia, and Paul now, because now I know Paul. So
Yeah.
Bev Assets,
Well, you guys are
Frontline.
next best friends now, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah, no, we had a super good conversation. So good morning to you fine folks. And then Ryan and On the Rocks Advisors. Ryan and I have, fuck, I don't know, 5 or 6 irons in the fire contracts out right now, which is super exciting that we would work on together. And then myself, Alias Advising. So good morning and thank
What
you to
does
all our
alias
sponsors.
advising do? I mean, we never really get into it. What do you do?
The short answer, supply chain and operations, right? Um, S&OP type shit, help with forecasting, production planning. It's a lot of concept to launch type stuff for formulators because that's the realm I like to work in. So, like for example, I just sent out an invoice before we started this morning for a woman who's looking to do a line of kava products. Um, and she doesn't work in beverage, but she wants to get into it. She's like, I want to do a 3 SKU line of kava products. Okay, well, let's get started, right? Like, we'll help you find a formulator. We'll get, um, can supply. We'll figure out MOQs and first production volumes and tell her all the shit she doesn't want to hear about how difficult it's going to be. So that's what I do.
That's interesting. I talked to a formulator yesterday, a young woman that's, I think she's work. I can't remember. I should get the name to share with you, but they basically all the cost of the formulation say, yeah, we don't have like the back end IP. Once we make it, you can take it anywhere and produce it. By the way, which I think that's important. In other words, if you pay the formulator to create it, if you can move it around, I think it's better for the client. So I know any client I'm going to recommend, I'm like, hey, make sure you look at the fine print
Dude,
on that piece. Probably something we could get into. But hey, so we had to make a pivot this morning. So unfortunately,
indeed.
and we hope that our guest that was going to join us is okay. But she had to cancel at the last minute, so we'll certainly reschedule that. But Adam and I decided to go forward. And what are our topics today that we're going to talk about, Adam? What are we going to get into?
Oh fuck. I think we just touched on a few of them. So I think we should talk about formulations and IP in that conversation because I've got a woman that Ryan and I are actively talking to right now who's dealing with that. I think we should talk about what you've mentioned in the past, but that you're experiencing again right now with kind of that, your first fractional sales partner versus your third fractional sales partner, and how people experience that life cycle differently, right? And how they should be cognizant of certain things. Um, and then I think just I know you and I both have a couple examples, and Ryan's going to laugh at this if he's watching, but of people's complaints, valid or not as they may be, about the lack of communication, but by a partner or the lack of detail, and then the person who's doing the complaining, it's a pot kettle situation, right? They'll make it known that their communication themselves is quite frankly dog shit, right? And it just makes me giggle. So it's a little bit of a vent sesh, a little bit of a clearing of the air because Sam and I need one from time to time. So I think that's what we get into.
I love it. I love it. Well, I tell you what, you take the helm. Let's get into it. Go into each one of
Yeah.
your topics.
Well, so the formula piece is interesting. So there's a woman Ryan and I are talking to who she's based abroad. I want to say I don't remember exactly where, but Western Europe somewhere, and she worked with a formulator and She wants to move these SKUs to the US, but the formulator owns the IP. And we were going back and forth the other day, and she said, hey, I paid the formulator for the IP on one of the SKUs, and it's a distilled spirit. And then there's a non-alc SKU and a cider that I, also have with them that I would need to pay them additional for the IP. We're talking like, 10 grand per product vertical, whatever you want to call it, right? So not nothing. And I don't know if she paid them up front. I don't know if there was a small amount up front or if they did the work for free. But the problem we ran into was, and I'm not saying that this formulator is a piece of shit. That's not what I'm getting at. What I am getting at is clarity is important. Because even with this distilled spirits formula, there's nothing in here. I didn't see an ABV listed. I didn't see like a target ABV. I didn't see a pH listed. Didn't see a Brix listed. Didn't see a preservation system listed, whether it's natural or artificial. Don't get me wrong, there was useful information in it, but it was not what I would consider, as somebody who does what I do for a living, a fully developed formula. And if I was reading it right, it cost her 10 grand to get not a fully developed formula, which is less than ideal. So, yeah.
That's
Ryan,
probably where they should
Ryan,
bring you in before they sign any of these agreements to kind of look through it to make sure that you keep them out of harm's way, right?
dude, the same goes for you. I tell people all the time, whether it's me or you or Ryan or really anybody in the fractional space, at least the folks I work with, right? Like, we're not the I won't get out of bed for less than X type, right? And so everybody always asks me, like, well, I'm not ready to start now. I'll be ready in like 2 months. And I was telling somebody this the other day. I was like, 2 months is 20 seconds in this industry. Like, it will go by like that. So if you don't educate yourself now on the conversations you think you're going to have in 2 months, you're fucked. You're already behind the eight ball. So like, and don't get me wrong, like I'll have that conversation right now for free because I don't want to see you light your money on fire.
Yeah, I mean, I have a client, or at least I have a client in Australia, great guy, Alex. And anyway, Alex is he's a distiller, co-packer, distributor. They have some of the biggest brands in Australia, quite frankly. They do really well, right?
Yep.
But he's smart. He hired us because he doesn't know North America. And he put us on a 60-day deal. And for 60 days, we've been meeting with him every week, and he's probably gotten more in 60 days now. So smart guy too. So he's like, he can push it because he already has us, right? But and we've connected him up with importers like MHW, Park Street, ASC. We've connected him up with experts that know on the CMBA, that where you basically can get like a refund back. Like if you're less than 100,000 gallons or something, there's like this credit you can get back to help your brand. We've connected them up with distillers like Earl Giles, Divine Distillers, Griffo Distillers, but all that work we're identifying, like you're talking about, like identifying where the gaps are, where it is we want to go, and then that'll help kind of determine what our strategy will be. It actually determines if we're going to go forward or not. And I think of like you're talking about formulators. I'm like, before you go talk to a formulator, talk to Adam because he deals with a lot of formulators. Look at what they're telling you. Because I had a client, and you know about the client, oh, it's name unnamed, but he paid this money, got his formula developed, and all of a sudden they sent him this agreement saying that he has to stay with them or he has to pay them this price.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that
right?
the person who did the formulator is wrong either, but you just gotta like make sure everybody understands what you're getting into.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're spot on. It's my personal preference would always be to pay the money up front and know that I own the IP if I put myself in the shoes of a brand owner. However, I'm going to be abundantly clear, not saying that formulators who do the work for free and then expect an IP payment later if that's the arrangement are bad people. That's not what I'm getting at. What I am getting at is you as the brand owner need to understand going into it that that's the arrangement because maybe it behooves you to get the formula done for free and to stay with a certain group until such time as you've proved the concept and have the money. That's a perfectly logical thought process if you know that's what you're fucking agreeing to, right? If you don't and you get caught by it on the back end and you're surprised, that's clearly going to be a smack in the face, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's tough, right? It's tough.
I think it's read the fine print. Ask a lot of questions. I do love clients that we talk to, founders that ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a good thing. Understand what the relationship is and understand what you're going to get. I do very much appreciate that.
For sure.
We were talking
Well,
before
and I
we
think
started today, about, how is it going, right? And I love every brand that we talk to. We're here, I kind of equate it to being like a bus or a train. They get on our
mhm,
train for a while and they're there for, a certain amount of time. And then at some point they exit the train. And we hope when they exit the train or the bus that they had a good experience.
sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, that is ultimately our goal. We give them enough information, or in the case of Frontline, we seed that market, we water those seeds, and we help them grow, and they grow just enough where they can go to the next spot. But where we get frustrated is there's kind of five different types of brands that we work with. Foundation brands, those are new to market. When I say foundation, they haven't even laid the rebar down or the gravel to make the concrete. It's the hardest
Sure.
brands to deal with. And I mean, no disrespect of any foundation brand out there. We love you. That's our lifeblood. But you have to learn patience. You really do. Brands in the beverage business, if you don't have 24 to 36 months of runway to build your business, don't get in this business. I'm just going to say
Well,
it
so
right
that
now.
I want to jump in. I know you're going through the five types, but and I was talking to Chris Sikanolfi about this the other day. Like, I think as consultants, we think we have to sell ourselves to the brands in terms of like,
Right.
here's why you would pay me to do the work. Which don't get me wrong, we
Yeah.
do and we should, right? We should,
Hmm.
provide validation for why we expect a check.
Yeah.
But also, I'm curious, what are some of the questions you and Alicia and Paul, and whoever it is, ask the brands you work with to vet them to make sure, like, oh, we accept you as the brand, like we are willing to work with you. Like, how do you validate the brand?
Well, one is I was getting so from a foundation, we ask them how much runway do they have?
Hmm.
Like how much cash is in the bank? Are you well financed? Are
Yeah.
you currently in distribution? What are you currently selling? That's the one that we always ask is how many accounts are you in right now? Because a lot of times we'll get in probably a little bit past foundation. It's probably like, hey,
Hmm.
I've built my brand, I'm in a can or a bottle, and I need distribution. So we're like, well, where are
Yep.
you selling now? And because what we from there we basically are able to index the markets. What's
Sure.
your FOB? Who's your competitive set? Where's your product made? Things
How
like
many, so I have
that.
to jump
So
in again. When you ask those questions, give me a percentage. How many brands that you talk to have answers to those questions and how many don't?
most people know where they're selling. They just don't
Yeah.
know if there's reorders. So we go
Okay.
deeper on that. Like,
Interesting.
okay, so you sold in 100 accounts. How many of those accounts are reordered? A lot of them don't know that answer.
Got
And
it.
I call that ghost distribution. So we start to vet out. Also, like they'll know their price, but I'm like, well, how did you develop that price? Well, I mean, I just, because my cost of goods is this price, and I have to make this much. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, who's your competitor?
Right. Right.
Because that's going to
Yeah.
determine your price. And it's a
Yeah.
tough discussion, especially on RTDs right now. And
Yeah.
you probably relate to this, but when I'm talking to a brand and their can cost for cost of goods is 250, yet they need to be at a 4 pack of 14.99, and they don't want to hear it. And I'm like, I didn't make the market up. That's where the market's at.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Dude. Yeah. No, it's.
Yeah.
I'll let you keep going, but I was telling somebody the other day, it was a vendor actually. It's a fun story. It was what up, Chris? Hi, Alicia. Good morning, folks. Um,
Thanks for
uh,
calling out, brother.
right.
I've been on top of it.
I was talking to a guy the other day. He was a vendor, is a friend of mine, and he'll remain nameless because I'm not sure if he'd want me, naming names. But his name's well, the vendor name will remain nameless. His name's Steve. I've known Steve for years. Super solid dude. And he called me. He goes, "Hey, I got a random question for you." I said, "Okay." He's like, "How much do you know about mushrooms?" I was like, enough to be dangerous, but not a ton. Why?" He goes, "Well, we're offering, mushroom type ingredients, right? Lion's mane reishi, beta glucans, shit like that, right? Okay, cool. What's up?" And he goes, "Well, we want to get a better understanding of the sweet spot for the cost per can, like how many pennies per can would an effective dose be of a certain mushroom extract, right? So like from a formula, from a cost of goods perspective, is it 10 cents a can? Is it 50 cents a can? And then how does that tie out to the shelf price, right? And so I said, right, like, all right, I don't know top of my head from a mushroom perspective. What I do know is if you want to sit on the shelf at, let's call it 350, because that's an attractive price for something non-alc, depending on the functionals, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to sit on shelf at 350, and you want to make low 30s margin backwards from the retailer through the distributor to the brand, right? And you figure the tolling is going to be this much, the can's going to be this much, and so on. You start to do the process of elimination, right? I said your liquid cost, all in, everything, flavors, sweeteners, acids, functionals, all of it, can't be any more than like 25 cents. So your functionals can't be any more than maybe 10 or 15 tops, ideally closer to like 5 to 8 cents a can. And he goes, holy shit. I said, what? He goes, that math really sucks. And I was like, yeah, man, welcome to being a brand owner. Like, this is the way it works.
Well, that's
right?
what you got to bet. I think that's in the beginning of the conversation, because remember the question asked is how much runway do you have and it's 24 to 36 months, because your cost as you start to build volume, your cost of goods should improve, right?
Should.
So, but as you go out the gate, yeah, you're probably losing money. I mean, I did an analysis yesterday for a mezcal out of Mexico. Love her to death. And I basically did it by month for 36 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I took all these factors in. What you're going to pay the distributor, their margin. What you're going to pay the retailer, their margin. What you're going to pay me, your fractional sales rep on the ground, representing you.
Mm-hmm.
What it's going to cost you to do sampling events and marketing, right? And so after we baked all that in,
Yep.
and I had what they were selling, so what your cost of goods are, what your FOB is. So the difference between the FOB and the cost of goods is what they're making, $44. And that $44 needs to start being spent, right? So you start looking at your income statement, like, okay, I'm going to put this over here and a whole bit. How much is left in the pie? Well, the first 12 months, there was a minus in there every month. And then I said, then at some point there's a tipping point where your volume, right? And maybe Chris, you're paying attention, so you can chime in. Or you can dial in, Chris, because I know you're like this expert data guy. But there's a point where there's a tipping point where all of a sudden you've gotten in enough accounts. So the number for this one is we got to get in 134 accounts. We have to average one case a month in those accounts. And if we average one case a month in 134 accounts, they start to break even. That's just the break even. And then you start to build. Hence why I'm talking about 24 to 36 months. If you think you're going to arrive here and you're going to make money out of the gate, I don't think you are. Tell me if I'm wrong. Now, you could, and we tell brands this all the time. I think you told me this or someone said this. Let's say you just want to bootstrap it. That is perfectly fine. You want to come up with your own formula and you want to start in your community, i.e. carbless. And you want to do that and you want to go hit accounts, you probably can make a little bit of money, make a lifestyle business, and you can do, you can lay down your foundation, build 100 stores, 50 to 100 stores, and after you do that, you have some velocity, some proof of concept, as Mike Levison says, or I don't know who said that, but anyway, Dave Martin. But my point is, if you've proven your demand, you've proven your velocity, then you're ready to hire someone like me.
Yep.
Because,
Yep.
or you're ready to hire a sales rep. You have to pay someone to do something, and they have to bring back the value, but that takes time, is my point. I don't know if you're following me.
No, I totally am. It's funny. I mean, again, I know we're the carbless fanboys. We mention Adam and Amanda all the time, but Amanda, I think maybe it was Adam, one of the two of them, posted something recently where they were like, for the first, God, I want to say it was 4 or 5 years, Amanda was the breadwinner, as it were, in terms of she was still working the day job, whatever that was. I forget what she was doing before carbless, but she was still working her day job and paying the bills, right? And Adam was feet on the street for 5 years. That's a fucking eternity, right? That's a long ass time. But everybody loves to be like, well, look at them now and blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, fucking God bless. They've had amazing success and they deserve every ounce of it. They're wonderful people.
Yeah.
But 5 years is a long ass time, right? Um, and yeah, I mean, I think I talk to, and I know this will resonate with you, Sam. I talk to so many brands who are like, I'm like, well, what's your goal for distribution? And they always think more is better. Like more doors, more doors, more doors. I'm like, that's not a plan, right? Like, even as the ops guy.
That's ghost distribution. If you're getting distribution and you're not activating it or doing anything with it, it's ghost distribution. It means absolutely zero.
Yeah.
Chris, if you're paying attention, or Alicia, or someone out there, or Ryan, man, I got to tell you, if you don't activate the brand, and again, being a fanboy of Adam, he'll tell you if they're not going to put you on the menu, if they're not going to put some type of point of sale in the account to tell you about where you are, don't go there. There's no reason to. We used to do that, like as a distributor. A person would arrive at my desk, and I'd have my boss, Brad Rodenius, and Lauren would be there, myself, and the brand manager, and they'd come in and say, okay, how many accounts is Tito's in? We're like, 1,000? Well, I want to be in 80% of Tito's business. You know what I would say?
Lay it on me.
Why? Do you have the money to be in 80% of Tito's business? Do you know what Tito's spends in each one of those accounts to activate them? So what's your budget? Because I can get you distribution, I can't create pool. I can push it in. Well, I'll put an incentive together for the sales team, and I'll pay $5 for a pod and $10 for a reorder. Okay. So what are you going to do to support? Are you going to pay for the menu? Are you going to do some wait staff education? Are you going to do a sampling event? Here's my point. I was on with a client, I think I told you yesterday, and they got into 10 PLCBs. That's the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board stores. They got into 10 of them. And I asked them the question.
I don't know that acronym, but yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. I asked them a question. I said, what have you done in those 10 accounts? They're like, what do you mean? I said, are you activating them? Have you gone in there? Are you doing tastings every week? They're like, no. And I said, well, the first thing we need to do is do tastings. He goes, well, our rep, Aaron, actually got approval to go do that. And I said, well, let's get on the phone next week. Let's lay out a plan to go in those 10 accounts, because those are the golden eggs, and do tastings on those accounts to create orders, which will create reorders. Then over time, the state's going to look, oh my gosh, that brand's moving really good. Let's expand them from 10 to 20 stores and do this rinse and repeat and do the exact same thing. And I'm hogging this, and we got to go into more stuff with you. But
no, dude,
next thing I asked them, I said, how many on-premise accounts are you in? They said like 10. I said, what are you doing over there? Well, they kind of order occasionally. Say, are you in those accounts? Are you talking to the wait staff? Are you talking to the bartenders? Are you working those accounts? Now, we're going to have them on the show eventually, but anyway, people would challenge that. At some point, you're going to get to that point where you can't do that yourself. It's not humanly possible. You got to multiply yourself through others. You got to use, systems. Ben Salisbury. It would be interesting to have Ben Salisbury on. He's going to come on at some point, and he'll talk about some of the new ways to market, which I'm very interested in. He has a lot of really innovative ways how people can build brands. But anyway, I went deep.
Sure. No, dude, this is so. As you were talking, it reminded me. There's a woman, you may know her. I wouldn't be surprised. Ella Parler. Do you know Ella?
No.
So I found Ella, I don't know, months ago, it doesn't matter, on LinkedIn, and she's got a book out that's been on my Amazon wish list for a while. I need to just buy it. But I bring her up because as you were talking, the smart ass in me was like, every brand I talk to, and I'm sure you do this too, right? Every brand I talk to, especially if it's like an energy drink or a cocktail, there's a certain type of product that'll be like, yeah, and we're going to get the attractive women out there, and we're going to have them sample product, and we're going to do this and that. Like, okay, right? Ella's been in this industry for, let's see, I'm on her LinkedIn page, at least at least since 2008, because she was on the Red Bull team then she went to work for Diageo, then she was with AB, then Pinot Ricard. Now she does her own thing with her own consulting business, right? But my point is, she's been the attractive female going out and sampling product, all the way now to more of what you're doing, the kind of
Yeah.
fractional sales and distribution strategy, that kind of thing. I would love to get her on here and ask, like, hey, when you were in that world doing samplings and being kind of the pretty face of the brand, what were you getting paid, right? Because I think every brand owner thinks like, oh, I'll throw $20 at a college, female, and they'll go, sell this for me. Bull fucking shit, my dude, right? That's not the way it's going to work. You're going to have to pay them a decent sum because they're doing real work for you.
Oh yeah, sampling too. I think is starting to. It had a kind of a lull for a minute. It's coming back. I read some post the other day. Someone said they sold like 10 cases at a sampling event, which is freaking amazing, by the way,
Sure.
because that's conversion.
Yeah.
That's cans in hands, man. That's bottles in hands. That's liquid to lips. And those are people that they like the product. They're coming back to find you, and there's people who you can communicate with. I mean, I think Costco, right? I got to make a Costco road trip today. You know why I go to Costco? The sampling for the
I mean, I'm
food.
assuming.
I want the on Saturday. I go hit everyone. I get the chips. I get the sausage. I load up my cart. I go there for lunch.
Well,
And then
so
I
you
get
know why I go to
converted.
Costco?
Why do you go to Costco?
So in the food court area, right? They've got this machine, and I call it the turntable. I don't know what the name is for it, but they make a big pizza dough, right? Like they stretch out the dough, and then they put it on this thing, and they hit a button, and it spins the dough while the sauce drips down, and it does this really cool like rotary sauce application. And Brie and I will just stand there and watch it happen. It's the most satisfying shit, right? It's just this spiral sauce applicator. And it's funny because the employees now know that people will stand at this big glass window and just watch them put sauce on a pizza.
I'm gonna videotape that today and text it to you. I'm gonna go to
Look for it. Yeah, it's fun as shit to watch.
Costco.
Yeah. But no, dude. I mean, you're again like the. I've said it so many times this week already. Like both to like when I was talking to Paul, talking to brands like, Yingling, Spotted Cow. I mean, there's a lot of examples in the beer world, but like there's so many brands that make a solid living, good, bad, or otherwise, right? Just selling in their state or in their city or in their region. And so this whole like, I've got a couple right now, and don't get me wrong, they're early stage founders, they're not familiar with this industry, and they're taking the advice in stride, right? They don't like to hear it, but they're taking it. But I tell people all the time, like, guys, pick 3 stores and just hammer the shit out of them, right? I've got one that's she's like, yeah, there's this restaurant that's kind of aligned culturally with our product. I'm like, great, make them your best fucking friends, focus on nobody else, right? And they're like, well, why? I'm like, because it's proven velocity. Like you're underestimating how valuable that is, right? Yeah. Anyway.
100%. I mean, think about the Bible tea guy we had on, right? And he talked about where he got his first distribution, and he goes in there every week, and he never leaves the store until he sells a bottle. And it's just,
Dude,
I play that
I went back
story
and
for people. Let's go ahead.
I went back and listened to that episode, and the shit he was talking about that, or when like his first distributor in New York just fucking disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden he showed up one day and people weren't there anymore. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and that happens in this industry. We tell our clients, we're going to introduce you, to a distributor. That's your relationship with that distributor, right? You have to maintain that and communicate with them.
Yeah.
And the industry is really interesting right now. We love distributors, right? But it's tough out there for people. There's massive shifts in terms of what people are consuming, and people are trying to figure out, where they're gonna put the brand and what brands they're gonna carry, and brands are saying, well, what do I need to come out with? What distributor I need to go to? What's my market? And that's the work we do. We do a whole route to market, and commercial strategy, which informs the go-to-market plan all the way down to the store level. But you're right, you don't have to boil the ocean. I always think of Mike Levinson, and he said, go play in rivers and streams. Remember that episode? Octopus Consulting. I mean, he plays
Oh,
in
yeah,
food
absolutely.
service. And so many people are going chasing Hy-Vee and Albertsons and
So
all Walmart, and he's like, "Hey, I'm over here. No one comes over here and talks to me. I can go get you. And like, if you have a price, you're ready to go." He has a program called Tom, I think, which people should absolutely go check out. I was asking him about it, but
Mhm.
I mean, I love that fact is in your backyard you can make a living. I know this is totally unrelated, but I have to say it. I was telling you about the robotics earlier. I got a guy that lives in New York.
Mhm.
He's just going to focus in Jersey, in the New York metro area. That's it. He thinks he can sell 1,000 robots. 1,000. Quickly.
Dude, well, yeah, I have no doubt that that's true. I mean, again, it's the for years, and it's nobody's been mean about it. Nobody's been presumptive. Like everybody's been super respectful. But I mean, I do RTD beverage, high acid, shelf stable, mostly cans, right? And everybody will ask me like, well, do you do anything else? And they ask just so they know what business to send my way. So it's a perfectly respectful question.
Yeah.
But it is interesting in that, they're like, well, do you do other stuff? I'm like, I would like to. I've never needed to though, right? Like it's the same logic, just in reverse. Like I don't need to go work on 50 different verticals. At least so far, like I can stay in canned, shelf stable beverage. There's plenty of business to be had right here,
Well,
right?
that's where the market's at. Right now, RTDs is what's growing the adult beverage business, by the way. It is.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, cans are,
So I
we
want to ask
talked
you a question.
yeah.
Uh, I want to ask you a question quick because I get this is we don't connect outside of this as often as we should, and I need to pick your brain. Everybody and their mother that I talk to is like, "Oh, I gotta launch, two more SKUs or three more SKUs, or I have to have an energy line in addition to my hydration product." Like, do distributors really give a fuck? Thank you. That
You
was
know what
my
a distributor,
assumption,
you
but
know what a distributor cares about? Guess.
mm, support, in short.
What's that?
Support. Like, can the brand support the product regardless of how many SKUs or what it is?
They want to know movement out of the bat. What are you currently
Mm,
selling?
sure,
What is your
sure,
current velocity? Where you've been sold right now? Are you well
sure,
financed?
sure.
Where's pickup? What's my price? Who's your competitive set? And then before I forget, Chris just came in. He said, I start with the shelf price and work backwards to get the cost of goods and FOB needed to hit the SRP. Now,
Sure.
Chris, I mean, no offense, I'm about to say, I don't know how you can shape the cost of goods. So please dial in here, by the way, and come in and join us and walk us through how you can shape the cost of goods because I'm very interested in hearing that. And I would like to have Adam kind of talk
I
about
tell
that
you,
because I think the cost of goods are going
yeah.
to come before the FOB. It's just what it is, right? Am I
It,
wrong or not? But Chris, please dial in.
well,
Use the same link, by the way, that I
you're
gave
not
you
wrong.
last week.
You're not wrong, but Chris and I had this conversation or a version of it. It's a little chicken or the egg, right? Because you can approach it from both
Yeah.
ways. Um, but like for example, with the vendor I said, the gentleman Steve that called me, and this was what Chris and I were talking about. If somebody knows, hey, to your point earlier, Sam, if somebody knows, hey, I have to be at this shelf price in order to be competitive, I think where people get spun up is, and I see this all the time in functionals, but you see the same thing in ALK, is people think they have to have like 16 different reasons for someone to buy their product, right? So it can't just be tequila or real tequila or real bourbon. It's got
Hey,
to
give
also
here.
have
I'm
like,
gonna give Chris the dial in. Hold on a second.
yeah,
Yeah, keep on going.
um,
I'm listening.
it's got to also have like agave as a sweetener, and it's got to also have God, I'm trying to think of what other expensive shit you could throw in there. But like, it's just got to have, one thing after another, a laundry list of reasons for people to buy the product, which, don't get me wrong, like, can be useful, but A, it's a confusing story to tell, and B, it adds to your costs. And so, from the ops guy's perspective, and where it blends with sales, is like, hey, if you know you need to be at this price, and the primary reason people are going to buy your product is because it has real rum, real bourbon, real tequila, um, it's got a certain functional, whether that's a mushroom or a THC or whatever, great.
Yeah.
Pay the money for that, market the shit out of that, and fucking ignore everything else. Use the most cost effective sweetener profile, use the most cost effective flavor profile, use the most cost effective juice profile. All the other shit you can make simple to the goal of getting to the cogs that you need to get to. But the problem is, everybody looks at juice is a good example. Everybody looks at, well, I'm going to make something with real bourbon, but then I'm also going to use named fruit juices, and I'm also going to use the most expensive sweetener I can. I'm like, no, that's just not an option, right? You've got to tailor something to your primary target.
Yeah, it's that's interesting then. So, like Chris said, you know your competitive set, which will somewhat determine your SRP. You work that backwards to the distributor, to the retailer, what they need to make, right? And you land on this FOB. And now you're like, hey, this is the FOB I need to be. So now you can start looking at, do I need 16 variations of this product? Can I go with 4, which takes 5 cents out of this? Do I need you've talked about cans before, but can I go with the standard can versus the digital can? And can I say price? Who's my co-packer? What are the MOQs? So you can basically work it. So maybe they should start with the, which is true, you probably should. I should know that answer. You should start like, who's your competitor? What is the marketplace? Work it backwards and say, hey, is this doable or not doable?
Well, because so spot on, right? The other piece of that is, and it sounds like Chris is going to try and join us, is you may go through everything I just said and realize, for example, like, okay, I'm going to use real tequila, but then everything else is going to be as cost effective as possible. Natural flavors, simple sweeteners, blah, 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 right? Grape juice instead of named fruit juices, shit like that. You may still realize that in order to hit the cost of goods you need to hit, you have to produce 3,000 gallons per SKU instead of 1,000 because you need your tolling fee to be lower.
Right.
That leaves you That leaves you at a decision point of, all right, well, you can either go find the money to produce at 3,000 gallons per SKU to get that lower COGS, or to the carbless example, you can produce at lower volumes, but you can know that you're going to have to self-distribute in your own state and do all the feet on the street yourself, if your state's, amenable to that, right? So on and so forth. And save money in other ways, but it paints you, going back to your point on having a distributor, having a plan, we need to hit this many stores to make, break even, so on. It just gives you that very clear roadmap. It's not fun, but there. Also, good morning, Chris. Can you hear us?
Yeah, guys, can you hear me putting on my seatbelt?
We can.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, I love it when people come in hot, man. I called you out. You're always welcome to do this, by the way. You can always come, Chris, and join us. You're always welcome.
No, but Sam, actually, a couple minutes ago, you kind of made my point for me. The example that Adam and I talked about a few weeks ago was when, well, Sam, you and I are give or take the same generation. So we learned math a certain way, right?
Yeah.
My kids learned it a different way. All right. We learned that 2 + 2 = 4. My kids learned that 4 divided by 2 = 2. Therefore, 2 + 2 = 4. The shelf price backwards, which you touched on, Sam. I want to be at $5.99. Okay. You have, in order to be at $5.99, you have to build in a 30% retail margin. So you have to minus that, right? Then you have to minus the distributor margin of, let's call it 27.5. Then you minus that. All right. Then you minus freight and tax. That leaves you with a net FOB. Divide that FOB by 2. That's what your COGS need to be. Right. Now this is a quote unquote what the book says. Right. For my clients, what I say is, instead of doubling your COGS to meet your FOB, do it at 1.2 to cover what you said, Sam. Feet on the street, budget for activations, budget for social media, et cetera, et cetera. So really the question is, again, Adam's point of chicken and the egg. Why do you want to be at that shelf price? Like, and Sam, Adam, you and I were talking about my canned THC client, right? They came in saying we want to be at $5.99, and then we did the exercise, and then we did the competitive sales analysis, and we found out that THC beverages, the velocity at $6.99 is 18% higher than at $5.99, right? So then we worked backwards. We found out that their FOB could be about, I think, $4.50 more a case to get distributor full margin and retailer full margin, be at $6.99, which is selling through at 18% faster than $5.99. Right. So again, chicken and the egg. Adam is right. Learning the math, everyone is right. But the way that I just explained it to you is Gallo 101. That's how Gallo does their shelf analysis, because I was taught by a 25-year veteran of Gallo who does pricing. And so the cool thing about this, though, guys, is the three of us are having this call right now. We can have three totally different views on how to get there, right? But I'm a tortoise in the hair guy, slow, steady, and straight, and then kind of going
language.
yeah, and then Adam, going back to what you were saying, why for the next 3 years, anyone thinking of doing a line expansion should punch themselves right in the stomach. Right, go deep and wide. Right? Go deep and wide with what you have. Right. Yeah. God forbid you get desirability, and you get people to ask, "What's next? What's next?" And then if you want to do the high noon example of do a variety pack with a flavor you can only buy in said variety pack. And then the best works example, and then I'll shut up, is just 4 weeks ago, Hennessy VS launched an RTP line, 3 different flavors, 40% versus their 80 proof, right? Sorry, 40 proof versus 80 proof. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is I used to work there. I have a lot of friends there. For 7 years, the U.S. brand team for Hennessy's tried to get the Maison to approve it, but France said no way. Bernard Arnault's son takes over as global CEO of Moet Hennessy. 6 months later, you got RTP. All right. A lot of it's generational, but Here's what I know. They made 100,000 cases of it. Distributors took it all in one PO, and it's already sold out in 6 weeks.
Wow.
What if they would have done, now think about this, guys. What if they would have done this during the pandemic?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the cool thing I like about talking with you guys is, Sam and I are from similar generation. Adam's from a different generation. We look at the business from at least 2 different ways, probably 3 different ways, I'll be honest with you. But there's usually 80% continuity in kind of what we talk about. And so, there you go. So I'll be quiet.
I'm going to send you this.
No, this is great. I appreciate you jumping in.
This is the field marketing training album from Gallo. And Chris, within this, it has all the pricing that your 25-year veteran taught you. It's all right in the book.
Oh, dude, scan it to me. Don't send it to me.
I was gonna say, dude,
that's worth like $100,000.
I was gonna say that's fucking gold.
You're right. It is, man.
Redact.
I got all these manuals.
Information.
Yeah. No, the best.
Start selling that shit. That's good money.
Well, when we're not on camera being recorded, guys, I'll also share with you the story that this gentleman. So he was a 25-year veteran in 2005. So he started with them 85? No, 85? 85, right? And he told me the story about talk about field marketing manual, Sam. He told me the directions given by the last original surviving Gallo on how to launch Thunderbird in urban markets. When we're not being recorded, I'll tell you that story. On one hand, it'll offend you to high heaven. On the other hand, you'll be like, that is genius.
Well, I'm gonna scan this chapter today to you. I gotta read this paragraph, but you just brought memory. Understanding distributor pricing practices. The purpose of this chapter is to acquaint you with the language and general pricing practices of a typical Gallo distributor. The
Yep.
explanation will barely scratch the surface of the intricacies and complexities of distributor pricing. It's assumed that you already have a strong background in basic retail wine pricing. Nevertheless, you should thoroughly review Chapter 10, Pricing Fundamentals. Like this thing is like everything he taught you is right here.
Oh yeah, it's
Dude.
100%. And it's funny you talk about Gallo distributors. And so you look at Johnson Brothers, right?
Yeah.
Johnson Brothers is by far the best executional distributor in the US, right?
Yeah.
Do these 10 things in 90 days, and guess what? All 10 things get done in 90 days. Right? Now look at what Reyes has become. On the beer side the last 30 years, who's been the best executional beer distributor? Reyes.
Yeah.
Right? Where'd Gallo go in California? Right? So, but the thing about the Reyes model, and the thing about almost every distributor model currently and for the next 3 to 5 years, Reyes tells their suppliers very clearly, we will deliver your product, we will be great stewards of your brand, right? We will work at 22 to 24 points versus 25 to 30, right? You take that money and invest in people in the market, boots on the street. We will help you execute, but you got to do it, right? And we will be there at your events. We will blah blah. And I've seen it all happen, especially the last year. And you know, we can all agree that what's the last brand a distributor built? Some may say Tito's, but I think we could agree Tito changed his name and Tito built Tito's. Right?
Yeah.
I think his real name is like Joe Smith or something. But that's I don't know about you guys. This time, the last 2 years, I've never had more fun because I've had to use my brain a lot more.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
You do. You have to. I mean, because of the nature of where the business is at, you have to be. You really have to think through the approach of how you're
Yeah.
going to either solve a problem or pursue an opportunity in this business. And it's not for the faint of heart, but it is fun. I actually enjoy talking to people. I always talk about it, but I'm on this term ghost distribution.
Oh, yeah.
Like I know you called earlier, but had a client in Pennsylvania, and they're like, we're only in 10 Pennsylvania liquor control boards. I'm like, you're in 10 Pennsylvania liquor control boards. What are you doing to build that business? Like,
Exactly.
build it.
Exactly. And it's
They were complaining they didn't have enough. I'm like, well, have you proven that you deserve more?
yeah. Well, it's also, you know, I don't know about you, Sam, but almost all of my clients have no experience in Bev Alc,
Yeah.
right? They're very successful in other businesses, but our business. And so my biggest client, who, you know, Sam, they work with you in Texas, right? Their winemaker, who's fucking, you know, Wine Spectator Winemaker of the Year, sorry, Wine Enthusiast Winemaker of the Year. His belief is this brand should be 80% on premise. Okay. So all of the investment, all of the programming, and like we're just mentioning Texas, but like in New Jersey, we're doing RIP programs just for focused on premise, right? But what's happened the last?
What's a RIP program? What
Sorry.
is that?
A RIP program is, I love this. It's a legal, how do I explain it? It's a legal way to do volume discounting in New Jersey that protects, or that should protect, the brand shelf price. It's a margin enhancer for the retailer.
Okay.
So RIP means reduction in price, but the way they do it is actually the way you'd want someone to do it. So let's say that today, Chris's cab is $79.99, and their cost is $50, right? You do a 5-case RIP during the month of June. They buy 5 cases. It could be all at once or cumulative, right? they cannot lower the shelf price more than like 20% or something, right? So they can do a 1 month, they can do a special, quote unquote, to go from 79 to let's say 64.99, but they can't go lower than that. But what you want them to do is you want them to keep it at 79 or maybe go down to 74 and just keep the extra money. And then 30 days later, the distributor literally writes them a check for the deeper discount of the product. And you can do, in New Jersey, most people do it once a quarter and they bridge buy in between. But it's like in California, you can do QDs, right? Costco buys right? They buy a container, they pay $10. Safeway buys half a container, they pay $12. And the independent retailer buys 5 cases at a time, they pay $15, right? This is a legal way to get around it. But when you look at brands, going back to the shelf price that Adam brought up, I worked for Moet Hennessy for 7 years, right? They spend all their money to try to bring people to the shelf at $79.99, right? Don't discount, right? Invest on desirability, invest on marketing, coolness, aspirational activations. Sam, you mentioned liquid to lips a little bit ago, right?
Yeah.
Invite only parties, blah, blah, blah. That's how you grow. That's how you should be growing brands in the premium and luxury space. And knock wood, for me, those are all the brands that I'm working with. I've purposely chosen to stay above, let's say, 40,000 feet. I have THC clients, totally different conversation. But luxury's recovering quicker, premium's recovering quicker. Discount your heart away, Pernod. What's happened to them the last 3 years? Discount your heart away, Diageo. Discount your heart away, Brand X. Right? Tortoise in the hair.
I love it, man. That is amazing. Hey, quick question while we got you, Chris. We were talking before we went live. What do you think a client wants to see out of like a consultant? Like, what are you running into? Like, do you run into impatience or like how do you like manage the expectations of a client to keep them to understand what they're getting into, or how do you qualify them? I guess maybe I'm getting to the question. Like, how do you qualify a client? Well,
first of all, I'll clarify. I'm an advisor, not a consultant. We've talked about why. I don't use that word. Adam knows. But you have to be amazing during the initial conversation, Sam. Again, I know you and Alicia have 50 of these a week, right?
Yeah.
During call number 1 or call number 2, like before the shit or get off the pot call, you gotta tell them all the bad things. Now, all the bad things just means you have to be amazingly transparent, right? One of my first calls I took when I started this company, Sam, was this guy who's a manager of a very popular musician. That musician has a brand that's actually doing pretty well right now, right? So he was looking to do a tequila, and he's like, da 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 da, and then in 5 years we want to sell it for $100 million. So I go, okay, let's stop right there. What's your FOB? Okay, divide that by 100 million. You'd have to sell these many cases at a 8x revenue to be at 100 million. That's not going to happen. So you need to look at 50. Oh, there's no way. I'm like, well, that's real. I live in the real world. I got bills. I got mortgage to pay. You need to look at a 3-year, $25 to $50 million valuation, because that can be hit. Well, sounds like I go, hey, I'm not, if anyone tells you anything different, they're lying to you, and you should go with them. And then you'll come back to me in 6 months because they screwed the pooch. And guess what happened? They came back to me in 8 months, and I said, no, thank you. I don't have any more room.
Yeah. I love it, man. I mean, I think transparency is so important.
Yeah.
And I think, Adam asked me, like, what kind of questions do you ask clients? I mean, I think that's where you kind of came in. I always ask, like, who your competitive set is.
Yeah.
You know, how much runway do you have? You know, how much have you sold? Like anything else we're missing that you would ask the client? I love the math you just did on the evaluation, by the way.
Yeah. Well, no, that is math because, the only two brands that people that are outside of our business, right? Maybe three brands, people outside our business that who know is Casamigos, Aviation, and Buzzballs. Those are the only three brands that people who don't even know shit about shit. Oh, sorry. Can I cuss here?
It's all right.
Know
You,
what?
absolutely.
All right. So Casamigos. Now, this is the thing that blows me away. Casamigos was at 70,000 9-liter cases in 2016-17 when it sold for $1 billion. Right? Just do that math, right? And then go back to Constellation's purchase of Ballast Point. What 10 years before that, where they took a $900 million write-off the next year. Right? So Casamigos, Diageo lost their you-know-what on, right? They are currently losing their you-know-what on Aviation. There's a reason why Ryan Reynolds all of a sudden started promoting Aviation again, because he knows he ain't going to get that extra 400 million. All right, now look at Buzzballs. Buzzballs a different conversation, right? Organic story, right? Woman was a school teacher, created this for her and her friends to drink after school and talk smack about the kids. It's sourced from spirit, wine, what's neutral spirit, wine, and malt, right? They've got a production facility like 10 miles from my house. An argument could be made that Buzzballs at $1 billion was not ridiculously overpaid. It was overpaid, but old Bill Goldring got the money. He's doing fine, right? And so you have to just do the math, right? And look at other businesses. This is where, Sam, my clients who don't know anything about our business, but they know business, they know the multiples, right?
Mhm.
So I tell them, hey, so what was the last business you bought? Oh, I bought Bev Assets from Sam. Okay, what'd you pay? Okay. What was the multiple? Oh, it was 8x. Okay. So just do that same math, right? What's the 8x multiple on the 70,000 case brand? And let's assume it's the same FOB as today, right?
Right.
I think their FOB per 9-liter case, I'm going to say it's $400, right? 400 times 70,000. I can't do the calculator right now, but do that and then multiply it times 8. That is so below $1 billion. That's so below $1 billion. And there's a reason why Diageo's on their third CEO since Sir Ivan passed, and they're about to do a whole elimination of jobs August 1st. And you read about Treasury, they're finally going to get rid of 60 of their 90 brands, right? It's going back to what Adam said, or I don't know who said it, but hey, should I expand to more SKUs?
Now, I think focus on the
Right.
basics and the core
Yeah.
of what you have. I mean, absolutely. You know, we've had a couple brands where they're like, well, we're going to come up with this innovation. I'm like, you haven't even proven the first brand that you have yet. So why are you coming out with all
There
this
you go.
other stuff?
Yeah. Well, there's a champagne brand I'm really trying to close. It's a Blanc de Blanc, and I'm working with, I know Renard Blanc de Blanc is my desert island champagne. So met with them, tasted it. A celebrity's involved, but she's involved. Like she goes to the markets, and she was in Wisconsin for 3 days. Let's put it that way, right? She's
Oh, wow.
involved. Great package, great story, organic story. Quality's fucking good. It's just good. And they're like, yeah, so we're thinking of, it hasn't even really launched yet. They're in like doing via Park Street and stuff. And so they're like, yeah, we're thinking about doing a rosé. Then we're thinking about maybe laying down 1,000 of these bottles for a vintage down the line. I'm like, okay, do the second thing. Lay some Blanc de Blanc down, right? And then in 3 or 5 years, launch a vintage. That's easy.
Yeah.
Look at the rosé numbers post COVID. How's rosé doing right now? Right, Whispering Angel is owning the category still. I'm outside of Liquor King in Frisco, Texas right now, and Whispering Angel is $17.99
Amazing.
when you buy two. Sorry, you know, it's and the margins are it doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to do a rosé right now? You know.
It's amazing.
So, hey guys, I gotta run. Sam, Adam, thanks for letting me yap in your ear for a few.
Hey,
We'll talk to y'all soon.
chime in anytime, brother.
Bye guys. Have a great
See ya.
rest of the call.
Thanks for jumping in, dude. Later, brother.
That was really good. I think we can wrap up. Adam, any closing thoughts before we close it on the day?
Yeah, I think Chris brought up something really interesting about the way math gets done, and so I'll reiterate. Once upon a time, I used to be pretty good at moderately higher level math, and so you do proofs, right? Of like, okay, yes, 2 + 2 = 4, but only if 4 divided by 2 also equals 2, right? And bear with me on the hypothetical here, but I think too many brands don't pressure check the math from multiple angles, right? They see 2 + 2 = 4 and they go, okay, cool, that's my plan.
Yeah.
They don't then flip the math or look at it from a different direction and go, well, does it still work if we do it this way, right?
Right.
And I think if they did, it's just a more defensible position to be in. Not that shit's not still going to go wrong and stuff's not going to happen, because it does, but you just go into it feeling more confident in like, okay, it's not broken, and in fact, I could argue from several directions that it works, right? That's my point for the day.
No, I love that. I love the fact that we got to get more people to pop in. I love pop-ins, by the way, so we should encourage, like, maybe we have a particular guest, maybe we know someone that could add some value and have them do a surprise pop-in would be really good. So I love that.
Yeah.
I love the fact that we started saying it earlier on, but you got to be brutally honest, either the first or the second meeting, about what the realities are of the marketplace and what they're going to face, because you don't want to have that conversation 90 days in. They're entering thinking, hey, I've got this person, I'm going to be in 1,000 accounts. Could that happen? Absolutely could. But probably the odds are it's not. Doing the math, the odds are that that's not going to happen. But if you approach the market and you have a really good plan in place and you work that plan, you can be very successful. And if you talk to people like yourself, Adam, or Chris, or Alicia, or Ryan,
Or you.
on the marketplace, or even reach out to like a Jay Williams. I mean, Jay Williams could teach a master class on how to build a brand. Now, he's one of those brands that he's doing it fairly quickly, which is amazing, but he didn't do that overnight. I can tell you, I ran into him at BevNet when he was at his launch, and he put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of unknowns. And I'm sure Jay would qualify that for sure. I'm not going to pretend to know what those unknowns are. But Jay, if you capture this episode, let us know. But yeah, there was a good talk today, brother. I hope the person that was supposed to join us, I hope you're okay. Please let us know.
Agreed.
That's important to us. And we'll wrap up today. And thank everybody for joining us on your Saturday. And have a beautiful weekend.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.